Sharon Osbourne speaks out after losing Ozzy Osbourne. For 2 weeks after Ozzy Osbourne's death on July 22, 2025, Sharon Osbourne remained silent. While the world mourned the loss of the Prince of Darkness and tributes poured in from every corner of the globe, the woman who had been his partner, manager, and soulmate for over 4 decades retreated from public view, processing a grief so profound that words seemed inadequate. But on August 5, 2025, in an exclusive interview that would become one of the most watched and emotionally powerful conversations in television history, Sharon finally broke her silence about losing the love of her life. The interview, conducted in the privacy of the Osbourne family home in Buckinghamshire, revealed a woman transformed by loss but determined to honor her husband's memory by sharing the truth about their extraordinary partnership. Speaking with a composure that barely contained her overwhelming emotion, Sharon opened her heart about the final months with Ozzy, the shocking circumstances of his death from acute myocardial infarction, and how she plans to carry on his legacy while rebuilding her own life without the man who had been her everything for 43 years. "People keep asking me how I'm doing," Sharon began, her voice steady, but her eyes revealing the depth of her pain. "The truth is, I don't know how to answer that question. How do you describe what it's like to lose the other half of your soul? Ozzy wasn't just my husband. He was my best friend, my business partner, my greatest challenge, and my most beautiful love story, all rolled into one impossible, wonderful, complicated man who changed my life in every way imaginable." The setting for the interview was carefully chosen. The same living room where Sharon and Ozzy had filmed countless episodes of The Osbournes, surrounded by family photos and mementos from their decades together. Sharon sat in Ozzy's favorite chair, a decision she explained was both comforting and heartbreaking. "I can still smell his cologne on this chair," she admitted, running her hands along the worn armrests. "Sometimes I sit here and close my eyes and pretend he's just in the studio working on music, that he'll come walking through that door any minute with some crazy new song he wants me to hear. But then I open my eyes and remember that the music stopped." If Sharon's courage in sharing her grief is moving you as much as it's moving us, please show your support with a like. Her words deserve to be heard and remembered. The interview marked Sharon's first public appearance since Ozzy's funeral procession through Birmingham, and the change in her was immediately apparent to those who had known her for decades. The fiery, no-nonsense manager who had built empires and battled industry giants appeared smaller somehow, as if losing Ozzy had physically diminished her. But as she spoke, it became clear that while grief had changed her, it had not broken her spirit or her determination to continue fighting for the things that mattered most to her husband. "I knew this day would come," she admitted, clasping her hands tightly in her lap to stop them from trembling. "We both knew it, especially after the Parkinson's diagnosis. We had talked about it, planned for it, tried to prepare ourselves and our children. But knowing something intellectually and actually living through it are 2 completely different things. Nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the reality of waking up every morning to a world that doesn't have Ozzy's voice in it." Sharon's decision to speak publicly came after weeks of internal struggle about how to honor Ozzy's memory while respecting her family's need for privacy during their grieving process. She had received thousands of interview requests from media outlets around the world, from major television networks to small podcasts, but had chosen to speak with veteran journalist Catherine Morrison, a respected interviewer known for her compassionate approach to difficult subjects, feeling that only someone with decades of experience could handle such a sensitive and emotional conversation with the dignity and respect it deserved. "I'm doing this interview because I owe it to the fans," Sharon explained, her voice growing stronger as she talked about the people who had supported Ozzy throughout his career. Ozzy's fans loved him with a passion and loyalty that sustained him throughout his entire career. They stood by him through his struggles with addiction. They celebrated his victories. They never gave up on him, even when he gave up on himself. They deserve to hear the truth about his final weeks, about how he died, and about what his last months were really like. But more than that, I need to tell this story because it's beautiful, and the world needs to know how beautiful it was. The conversation then turned to the details of Ozzy's final months, and Sharon revealed information that contradicted much of the speculation that had surrounded his decline in the media. Rather than depicting a man slowly fading away in despair, She painted a picture of someone who had found unexpected peace, purpose, and even joy in his final weeks, despite the physical challenges posed by his advancing Parkinson's disease. The Parkinson's was hard, there's no denying that, she said, her voice growing stronger as she talked about her husband's courage in facing his illness. Watching the man you love struggle with something so basic as holding a cup of coffee breaks your heart every single day. But what people don't understand is that in many ways, the last few months were some of the happiest and most creatively fulfilling of our entire marriage. Ozzy had found this incredible calm, this acceptance of what was happening to him. Instead of fighting his illness with anger and frustration, he was using it as inspiration for the most beautiful and innovative music he'd ever created. Sharon then revealed details about Ozzy's secret final project that had not been shared publicly before, information that would reshape how the world understood his final weeks. She described watching her husband work with cutting-edge adaptive technology to compose what she called his love letter to the world, a musical piece that incorporated everything he had learned about life, love, creativity, and the power of human connection over his 7 decades on Earth. He would spend hours in his studio, completely absorbed in this music, she recalled, a genuine smile crossing her face for the first time during the interview. I would bring him tea or lunch, and he would play me little snippets of what he was working on. It was unlike anything he'd ever done before, so hopeful, so full of gratitude and wonder. He told me he was creating something that would help people understand that every moment of life, even the difficult ones, even the painful ones, are worth celebrating because they're all part of the human experience. The interview took an unexpected turn when Sharon addressed the circumstances of Ozzy's death directly, providing details that the family had kept private out of respect for his memory and their own need to process their loss. She described the morning of July 22nd not as a tragedy, but as the completion of something beautiful and meaningful, a fitting end to a life lived with passionate creativity. People want to know if he suffered, if he was afraid, if there was pain at the end, she said, tears beginning to form in her eyes, but her voice remaining steady. The answer is absolutely not. Ozzy died exactly the way he lived, creating music, surrounded by love, and doing exactly what he was meant to do on this earth. When his heart stopped, he had just finished the most important and beautiful piece of music he'd ever written. He was laughing with pure joy. He was proud of what he'd accomplished. He was complete in a way I'd never seen him before. If you have to leave this world, I can't imagine a more perfect way to do it. Sharon's voice broke slightly as she described finding Ozzy in his studio, still positioned at his adaptive music interface, with an expression of pure contentment and artistic fulfillment on his face. She revealed that his final words had been about the music he was creating, expressing satisfaction and joy at having captured exactly what he wanted to convey in his farewell composition. I know it sounds strange, but I'm grateful, she continued, wiping away tears but maintaining her composure. I'm grateful that he didn't waste away in a hospital bed hooked up to machines, that he didn't lose his dignity or his passion or his ability to create. He went out on his own terms, in his own space, creating something beautiful that will help people for generations to come. That's the most Ozzy Osbourne way to die that I can imagine, and I know it's exactly how he would have wanted it to happen. The conversation then shifted to Sharon's reflections on their 43-year marriage, and she shared intimate details about their relationship that revealed the deep love, partnership, and genuine friendship that had sustained them through decades of extraordinary challenges and triumphs. She talked about their early years when she was helping to launch his solo career after he was fired from Black Sabbath, the dark periods they had faced during his struggles with addiction, and the profound joy they had found in building a family together while navigating the unique pressures of fame. People see the public Sharon and Ozzy, the tough manager and the wild rock star, the reality TV family, the couple who survived addiction and health scares and public scandals, she explained, gesturing to the family photos that surrounded them. But the private Sharon and Ozzy were just two people who loved each other more than life itself, who genuinely enjoyed each other's company even after 4 decades together. We had our problems, God knows we did. We fought and made mistakes and hurt each other sometimes, but underneath all the chaos and the fame and the business pressures, We were best friends who still made each other laugh every single day. Sharon revealed that one of the things she missed most acutely was the simple, everyday pleasure of making Ozzy laugh and being made to laugh by him in return. She described how, even during his final weeks when his speech was severely affected by Parkinson's disease, he would still find creative ways to make her smile, whether through exaggerated facial expressions, hastily scrawled notes, or the music he was creating that seemed to capture his personality, even when his voice could not. He had this incredible gift for finding joy and humor in the smallest things, she remembered, her eyes lighting up as she shared memories. Even when he was really struggling physically, when the simplest tasks were difficult for him, he would find something to be grateful for, something to celebrate, some reason to smile. He taught me that happiness isn't about having perfect circumstances or easy times. It's about choosing to find beauty and meaning wherever you are, whatever you're facing. The interview revealed that Sharon had been far more involved in Ozzy's final musical project than had been previously known or understood by the public. She described serving not just as his emotional support and caregiver, but as his creative collaborator and artistic partner, helping him organize his thoughts and translate his artistic vision into the sophisticated technological systems he was using to compose, despite his physical limitations. I became his interpreter, his bridge between the music in his mind and the technology that could make it real, she explained, clearly proud of the role she had played in his final creative achievement. When the Parkinson's made it difficult for him to communicate verbally, I learned to read his expressions, his gestures, his intentions. We developed our own private language that allowed him to express his musical ideas even when words failed him. It was like falling in love with him all over again, learning to communicate in completely new ways, discovering new depths to our connection. Sharon also addressed the massive outpouring of grief, support, and celebration that the family had received since Ozzy's death became public knowledge. She expressed particular gratitude for the tributes from fellow musicians across all genres, many of whom had shared personal stories about Ozzy's influence on their careers, his kindness to them personally, and his generosity in supporting and encouraging younger artists throughout his career. The stories people have been sharing have been absolutely incredible and so moving, she said, clearly touched by the response. Musicians from every genre imaginable talking about how Ozzy influenced their work, how he encouraged them when they were starting out, how he was always generous with his time and advice, even when he was dealing with his own challenges. It's made me realize that his impact went far beyond just his own music. He helped create and inspire entire generations of artists who are now creating their own music and influencing others in turn. She revealed that the family had received over 75,000 letters, cards, emails, and social media messages from fans around the world, many of them sharing deeply personal stories about how Ozzy's music had helped them through the darkest and most difficult times in their own lives. Reading these tributes had become part of Sharon's daily routine, helping her process her grief while gaining a fuller understanding of the true scope of her husband's impact on individual lives across the globe. There was one letter from a woman in Australia who told us that Changes had been playing on the radio the night she decided not to take her own life, Sharon shared, her voice heavy with emotion. She wrote that hearing Ozzy's voice in that moment reminded her that she wasn't alone in her pain, that someone else had felt the kind of despair she was feeling and had found a way through it to the other side. When you read stories like that, hundreds of them, you realize that Ozzy wasn't just an entertainer or even just a musician. He was a healer, someone whose honesty about his own struggles gave other people permission to struggle and keep fighting. The conversation then turned to Sharon's specific plans for the future, and she revealed that she was deeply committed to continuing Ozzy's work in multiple, meaningful ways. She announced the establishment of the Osbourne Foundation for Musical Accessibility, which would fund research and development of technologies designed to help disabled musicians continue their creative work, building on the innovations that Ozzy had helped pioneer during his final months. Ozzy spent his final months proving that physical limitations don't have to end artistic careers, she explained with evident passion for the project. He developed technologies and techniques that are already helping other musicians overcome their own challenges and continue creating. I want to make sure that work continues and expands, that his innovations reach as many people as possible who could benefit from them. It's a way of keeping his spirit alive while helping other artists find their voices. Sharon also revealed detailed plans to share carefully selected portions of Ozzy's final composition with the world through a thoughtfully curated series of releases and performances. She emphasized that the family would maintain complete control over how the music was presented, ensuring that it was shared in ways that honored Ozzy's artistic intentions and preserved the sacred, personal nature of his final creative act. This music is his final gift to the world, but it's also deeply personal and sacred. To our family, she said, choosing her words carefully, it's too beautiful and too important to keep private forever, but we're going to share it very thoughtfully, in ways that preserve its meaning and its power. It's not just music, it's Ozzy's final statement about what life means, what love means, what it means to be human and creative and connected to other people. The interview revealed that Sharon had been listening to Ozzy's final composition daily since his death, finding comfort and connection in hearing his voice and experiencing his musical vision even after losing him physically. She described the piece as the most honest and complete thing he ever created, a work that captured both his vulnerability and his strength, his gratitude and his wisdom. When I listen to it, I can feel him with me in the room, she admitted, her voice soft with wonder. It's like he knew that I would need to hear his voice after he was gone, so he left me this incredible gift. It's not morbid or sad or depressing. It's hopeful and beautiful and absolutely full of love. It reminds me of all the reasons I fell in love with him in the first place, and it makes me feel like our love story isn't over. It's just continuing in a different way. Sharon also addressed the practical and emotional challenges of rebuilding her life without the man who had been her partner in every aspect of their existence for over 4 decades. She spoke with remarkable honesty about the difficulty of making decisions alone after decades of collaboration, and about the process of learning to define herself as an individual rather than as half of an inseparable couple. For 43 years, every decision I made was made with Ozzy in mind, she explained, the weight of this realization evident in her voice. What would be good for his career? What would make him happy? What would serve our family? What would support his creativity? Every choice was a joint choice. Every plan was our plan together. Now I have to learn how to make decisions just for me, and I honestly don't remember how to do that. I'm 72 years old, and I'm having to figure out who Sharon Osbourne is when she's not Mrs. Ozzy Osbourne. Despite the overwhelming nature of these challenges, Sharon expressed a fierce determination to build a meaningful and fulfilling life that would honor both her own needs and desires, and Ozzy's memory and legacy. She revealed plans to write a comprehensive book about their marriage, focusing not on the public controversies and challenges that had been extensively covered in the media, but on the private love story, daily partnership, and deep friendship that had sustained them through everything life had thrown at them. I want people to understand what real, lasting love actually looks like, she said with conviction. Not the Hollywood version, not the fairy tale romance, but the actual day-to-day choice to love someone through everything life throws at you. Ozzy and I weren't perfect people, and we didn't have a perfect marriage, but we were perfect for each other. We chose each other every single day for 43 years, through addiction and recovery, through illness and health, through fame and scandal and quiet moments and public triumphs. That's a rare thing in any era, and I think it's worth sharing with people who might be struggling in their own relationships. Sharon also discussed her plans to continue working in television and media, but with a renewed focus on projects that would have meaning and impact, rather than simply entertainment value. She expressed interest in developing programming that would explore themes of love, loss, resilience, and the power of music to heal and connect people across all boundaries. I don't want to just fill time anymore, she said firmly. Life is too short and too precious to waste on things that don't matter. I want to use whatever platform I have, whatever influence I might still possess, to do things that would make Ozzy proud. Things that continue the work he was doing of showing people that it's okay to be different, it's okay to struggle, it's okay to be human and flawed and still worthy of love. The interview concluded with Sharon's heartfelt message to Ozzy's fans around the world, whom she credited with not only helping sustain her husband's career, but also providing her with strength and comfort during his final months and in the aftermath of his death. She emphasized that while Ozzy was physically gone, his music, his message, and his spirit would continue to live and grow through the people whose lives he had touched. Ozzy always said that music was bigger than any individual artist, she reflected, her voice strong and clear. He believed that songs took on lives of their own once they were released into the world, that they belonged to the people who needed them rather than to the people who created them. In that sense, Ozzy isn't really gone. He's living in every person who finds strength in his music, every musician who was inspired by his example, every fan who refuses to give up because they remember how he never gave up, even when everything seemed hopeless. Sharon's final words in the interview became an instant phenomenon on social media, shared millions of times across all platforms and quoted by fans, fellow celebrities, and people around the world who had been moved by her courage and grace. Ozzy used to tell me that the most important thing in life wasn't how long you lived, but how fully you lived, how much love you gave and received, how much beauty you created and shared. He packed more real living, more genuine human experience into his 76 years than most people could fit into 10 lifetimes. He loved completely and without reservation, created fearlessly and authentically, and never apologized for being exactly who he was. I'm not ready to say goodbye to him yet. I don't think I ever will be, but I'm ready to carry on his work of proving that life is beautiful and meaningful, even when it's difficult, even when it hurts. The interview was watched by over 150 million people worldwide across all platforms and sparked meaningful conversations about love, loss, creativity, resilience, and the power of music to heal and inspire across cultural and generational boundaries. Sharon's courage in sharing her grief so openly and honestly provided comfort and guidance to countless others who were dealing with their own losses, while her commitment to continuing Ozzy's work ensured that his legacy would extend far beyond his recorded music. In the weeks following the interview, Sharon received thousands of additional letters from people around the world who had been deeply moved by her words and her example. Many shared their own stories of loss and recovery, crediting her honesty about grief and her determination to find meaning in suffering with helping them process their own difficult emotions and find the strength to continue building meaningful lives. I realized that by sharing my pain so openly, I was also sharing my love, Sharon later reflected to close friends. And that love, the love Ozzy and I shared, the love he had for his music and his fans, the love we all have for each other, that's what will keep his spirit alive in all of our hearts forever. Sharon Osbourne's courage in sharing her grief reminds us that love doesn't end with death. It transforms and continues in new ways that can inspire and heal others. Her determination to honor Ozzy's memory while building her own meaningful future shows us that even the deepest loss can become a source of strength, purpose, and continued love. If her words have moved you, please share them, and remember that everyone dealing with loss deserves compassion, support, and the time they need to heal and rebuild.